Bring in Shawn Henry, a former top FBI official who's now the president of CrowdStrike Services and an NBC News analyst, and Elise Jordan, who worked on Rand Paul's presidential campaign and previously in the State Department and the Bush White House. Shawn, let me begin with you. The CIA says it's clear to them in this report that Russia intervened on behalf of Donald Trump, not just to disrupt the election, but to make sure that Donald Trump became president. The FBI says it's a little murkier. Where's the truth in there?
Well, I think you've got to look at the career analysts that are assessing the intelligence. They've been looking at Russia and Russian capabilities, Russian intent for many years. And when they analyze the evidence and the intelligence they've collected, they've made a determination. I think that the president or the president-elect needs to look at that, look at the totality of the circumstances, and assess what these career analysts are saying. These are people that are non-political and are looking to protect the national security interests of the United States, Willie.
But Donald Trump came out in a statement and said, look, these people, the CIA, are the same people who brought you the war with Iraq, effectively, paraphrasing there. What does it mean to have the man who will oversee all those agencies, the man who will be the president of the United States in about 40 days, already at odds with his intelligence services?
Yeah, I think that impacts morale. You've got, again, tens of thousands of people that are working around the world. These are career people. They've worked dozens of years in this space. There needs to be a sense of trust and confidence between the intelligence community and the president. If, in fact, the veracity of the intelligence is questioned, that's okay for a chief executive to question that, but it's got to be done with the appropriate officials at an appropriate time. And it really is not helpful to anybody to be doing that in the press and through social media. That is not of value.
Shawn, from all the people you've talked to and all the people you know inside these intelligence agencies, is it clear to you that the operation out of Russia was directed specifically to make Trump president? Or, on the other hand, was it just to cause chaos and doubt among voters in their electoral system here in America?
Well, the U.S. intelligence community said back in February of 2016 that the Russians would be actually looking to create chaos by putting disinformation out. They would be doing that through cyber means. That was their assessment back at the beginning of this year. I think I'll leave it to the intelligence analysts who are looking at the raw data to make that determination whether this was done for confusion to unseat the democratic process, or if it was actually done to elect Donald Trump. There are career analysts who are doing that, and they're looking at a whole host of intelligence, Willie, over a long period of time.
Shawn, you're now in the business of helping to stop hacks like this. So what can this country do moving forward to be sure, not as a partisan issue, but as an American issue, to make sure foreign governments are not intervening in the outcome of elections here?
Well, I think your point is very, very important. First of all, this is a nonpartisan issue, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. We're talking about the integrity of the U.S. electoral process. We're talking about national security for Americans. I think that the U.S. has to have a very strong policy. There's got to be a discussion between world leaders about what's acceptable and what's not. Nations understand that they collect intelligence from each other or against each other to protect their national interests. But if you're using that intelligence to impact another nation's system and to undermine them, if you're targeting critical infrastructure, that may be a line that can't be crossed, and there have to be some actions. And those actions have to be disseminated so people are very, very clear what the ramifications are going to be, Willie.
All right, Shawn Henry, always grateful for your perspective on stories like these. Thank you very much. Let's turn now to Elise. In our partisan political world, everything becomes about politics, but we really ought to strip politics out of this issue. This could have impacted Democrats as easily as it could have impacted Republicans. This is something that we cannot have in our elections.
Well, exactly, and that's why I think it's a mistake if Republicans do not treat this as a national security issue and turn it into more of a partisan issue. This is really just about the integrity of our electoral process, and there needs to be a thorough fact-finding among the intelligence communities. There needs to be a thorough report, not just the strategic leaks by the CIA, because I do think that the leaks without context are harmful. And so we need to know exactly what happened so we can move forward as a country.
As someone who worked inside the Bush White House, can you ever imagine the President of the United States coming out and attacking publicly the CIA this way.
That was really unprecedented, especially since he hasn't even come into office. Picking a battle with the CIA is not a smart move, in my opinion. They are, as we see with this leak, very strategic in how they leak, and he should not be at battle with his intelligence agency before he even sets foot in the Oval Office.
Let's talk about some of these picks. Andrea Mitchell reporting that Rex Tillerson, the CEO, the head of ExxonMobil, will in fact become the Secretary of State, or will be nominated to be Secretary of State. Obviously a very successful CEO. These are the kind of people Trump is looking at, CEOs, generals, leaders. But he comes with some conflicts as well. He's done a lot of business in Russia, a good friend of Vladimir Putin. What do you think about the pick?
Well, I think that I actually don't know enough about his worldview as going into office as someone who would be representing citizens and not his shareholders. So I think it can be simplistic to say that he's Putin's ally once he's going to get into that role as Secretary of State. We really just don't know at this phase. But I do think that his nomination process could be really contentious because you're going to have global warming activists on the one hand and then Russia hawks like John McCain and Lindsey Graham who are going to really challenge his close ties to Putin. So this could be a very interesting confirmation process.
It's interesting as you look at all these nominees out of the Trump transition team. For all the talk of Donald Trump being the strict loyalist, Chris Christie, Rudy Giuliani, we learned this week, will not take a job in the Trump administration. Newt Gingrich, Kellyanne Conway doesn't have a job yet. Are you surprised some of those people are not on the team yet?
I'm a little surprised, but I think that at the end of the day, Donald Trump's loyalty is to himself, and he's going to do what he thinks is best for himself and his administration going in. And so far, we've been seeing that he, is quick to abandon people if he thinks that they aren't up to task. He went through 2 campaign managers over the course of his campaign, and his entire show was based on firing people. So I think this is someone who is going to put in office who he wants there.
Still a month and a half away even from being inaugurated, and we've got all this to talk about. Elise Jordan, thanks so much. Always good to see you.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.